Hello, everybody.
We hope you had a happy and safe 4th of July. Today we are here with our July wrap up that covers content with our June wrap up, sorry. And we're also going to be talking about one movie that we watched last week before we went away to our family reunion.
So to start with, in the past month we went to Books a Million, and then we got to meet our Ashley Poston with her new book called The Someday Garden. Each of us has a copy.
And so I read this from June 15th when we went to the book signing to June 25th. So it took me 10 days because I'm reading a lot of other books in between. And Ashley Poston has been one of my favorite romance authors for as long as Abby Jimenez and Emily Henry have been, which is about 3 or 4 years now. So I've read most of her other books, and with the exception of The 7-Year Slip, all of her books have been 4 to 5 star ratings. The 7-Year Slip was 3.5 because the relationship was not believable because it progressed too fast. And this book is inspired by the botanical garden up in
Booth Bay Harbor, Maine,
which we have been to see the Christmas light show. So we really love the main setting of this book. It's what attracted us to reading it. Sophie's friend Harriet came up with a list of non-translatable words, and I think my favorite one is probably commovente, which apparently is an Italian adjective that says something that stirs the soul deeply. I have not come across this yet.
And by the way, if you do read this book, the chapters, they do have words like that.
Right. The untranslatable words are the chapter headings in the book, which is pretty cool because the glossary in the back tells you what the words mean. So I guess they are translatable if they have definitions. And as far as the discussion questions go, let's pick one. Okay. In the hedges of Lilymore, it said that one can hear the voice of their truest love. Sophie hears the voice of her best friend Harriet. If you had a magical hedge maze, who do you think you'd hear?
Well, the hedge maze, Janine, sometimes that depends on where you are in it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can hear almost like, maybe like at home, the sound of the wind rustling, or like a ghost.
Right. I mean, I think that's what the question is asking. I think it's maybe asking, what spirit of a person who has passed on would you hear in the hedge maze? Because this book deals with grief because Sophie goes to Lilymore after losing somebody in her family who was close to her, so...
It could be like her best friend whom she lost. Maybe if we were at a hedge maze, it could be almost like one of our family members.
Like your Aunt Sue?
My Aunt Sue.
Or Stacy, maybe.
Yes, Stacey Harris, whom we talked about our last video of her passing.
So, what's your progress?
My progress is, I'm almost done actually, and as a matter of fact, I was on 326 when I was almost at the finishing touch, but then my phone kind of interrupted me. Then I haven't gotten back to finishing it yet, but I'm almost there.
I'm gonna give it 5 stars, and Kathleen is reading it in August, so once we all confer about our ratings, we can come up with a rating for the 3 of us that's cumulative.
Right.
So the next thing that we want to talk about is PortFringe. I participated in the festival for the second time this year and wrote my own one-act play about growing up with a disability. I would like to thank everybody who came to see it. It really meant a lot to have that support there. if you go to the PortFringe website, you will see reviews on there that people who came to see the play wrote. Next year, I'm planning to be on the panel for the people who review, so I'm very excited about that. And
And incidentally, I like Janine's play so much that I had decided to take an effect the next weeks and months trying to write one for my very self.
yes,
Because both of us, as you know, we are neurodivergent.
yes, and I'm going to be helping him write his play, and our other friend from Double House Arts, John Hall, is also going to be writing a play about his disability, so I'm going to be helping Matt and John, along with our art teacher Amelia, with writing their scripts. So I'm excited to help them out. As far as the Port Fringe plays that we saw together, the first one that we saw was Chronic. Well, the first one that we're going to talk about that we saw on the last night of the festival was
Chronic Pain
au Chocolat.
Chocolat.
So this was a one-act play about chronic pain that was by a guy named Jonah, and he incorporated surface tricks into his discussion, like juggling and riding a unicycle. So I thought that was really
and he
cool.
does have a real chronic pain condition, so his mix of juggling acts and the circus really blends in with a nice little story that was fun to see.
The second play that we saw on the last night of the festival was called
Cinders.
And this was a LGBTQA plus version of Cinderella by this group called Magic at Midnight, and I actually downloaded their CD off of Bandcamp, and I haven't listened to it yet, so I will give a review of the CD later once I listen to it. So if you want to purchase it yourself, you can look it up, and you can also support our friend Kathleen, who had a CD release party for her new CD that she made through Listen Up Music back at the end of April. Both of these albums are $10 on Bandcamp. So as we were just saying, Cinder is a LGBTQ plus retelling of Cinderella that focuses on two lesbians. The prince in this version of Cinderella is actually a princess who is covering for her brother, who is traveling and doing other stuff while she takes over to attend all the political meetings. And if you have seen She's the Man with Amanda Bynes, the prince character in this retelling of Cinderella is very similar to Viola, with how she covers for her brother to try out for the soccer team. And the third play that we saw for PortFringe was Improv and Screaming, which was an improv show. The first part of the show, which was the screaming part, was like a one-act play related to like political stuff, which was a little bit confusing. The improv show was a lot of fun though. We had a lot of fun watching that, and we really love improv, so if there's an opportunity for us to get involved in doing an improv show next year in the festival, maybe we will do that. We also had the opportunity to march in a pride parade with our friends from the festival, and it was a lot of fun.
And we started off that morning with a pancake breakfast, which was in the same room as they were doing the improv show. But then we met on the street that was on the corner of the arena and right before Congress Street. And it was the same exact place where a year ago, G and I did it for our Double House in the same parade. So
the other two plays we saw in June were American Idiot at Portland Players. This was our second time seeing American Idiot. We start at Actor Singers Fringe in 2016. and our friend Jen directed it. So American Idiot is a jukebox musical based off the album of the same name by the band Green Day, who was really popular in the 90s and early 2000s. I listened to this band in high school, and I owned the CD at one point, but when I moved away to New Hampshire, I got rid of it. So this talks about a group of teenagers who I think live in New York, and they base the they use the album's songs as a way to tell a story about how they want to stand up against the war in Iraq. So my favorite songs from this album are American Idiot, Boulevard of Broken Dreams,
And we also like Time of Your Life.
Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, and also 21 Guns.
And the setting for this play, as Janine says, with the war in Iraq, it is during the year 2001-2002. And that's when we think of September 11th, that tragic event.
The second play that we saw at the end of last month, which was literally right before we went away to Hull for the family reunion this weekend, was 1776 at Maine State Music Theater.
Mm-hmm.
This show runs at Maine State Music Theater in Brunswick until Saturday, so if you live in the area and want to go up to Brunswick to go see it, you won't want to miss it. So 1776 is a musical that came out several years ago. I can't even remember when it was released, but it's about the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So each of the characters is a member of the Congress who signed a Declaration of Independence from each of the states in the Union at the time, where there were 13 colonies. The cast was very talented, as was the cast in American Idiot. To me, the standout characters were Benjamin Franklin, who was played by John Tracy Egan, Thomas Jefferson, who was played by Quinn Corcoran, Richard Henry Lee, who was played by Kurt Dale Clark, John Adams, who was played by James Patterson.
And I also like the actress who portrayed as Martha Washington.
You mean Martha Jefferson?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was really good too. She was named Liz LeClerc, and the actress who played Abigail Adams was also really good. Her name was Alicia Carori.
And let me tell you a couple of facts about this time period that I have learned of. First of all, the year 1776, as you all know, this year marked America's 250th anniversary. But sometimes I think about people who lived back when America celebrated the bicentennial 1976. So maybe that was the time when the play was created. But another fascinating fact was, not only were they doing the Declaration of Independence, but they were also, in one scene, thinking about our national bird. And here's a fact that Thomas Jefferson thought maybe our national bird would be the dove. And Ben Franklin thought it would be the turkey. But it turned out with John Adams' idea, it was the American eagle. So that counted in the vote along with who would be declared independent for the original 13 colonies.
I'm trying to see if it says anything in here about when this musical first came out, but I don't see anything.
And incidentally, as we're filming this right now, and when we post this video, the play at Maine State Music Theater is going to have one more weekend, and then it will wrap up by the time Saturday hits. So that's your last chance to see that.
Which I just said.
And then afterwards, in Brunswick, Maine, and Bowen College, the next play will be Disney's Frozen.
So our favorite songs in 1776 were Yours, 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 He plays the violin. Till then, cool, considerate men. And is anybody there?
Mm-hmm.
The next thing I wanted to talk about before I talk about books, which I left off of here, is fan theory of the week, which is Ted Mosby character analysis from How I Met Your Mother. I need to get that up on my screen really quickly. All right. While watching How I Met Your Mother when it originally aired from 2005 to 2014, I noticed that Ted Mosby, who is played by Josh Radnor, is very similar to Ross, and his dynamic with Robin, who is played by Colby Smulders, is very similar to his relationship with Rachel, who, as we know, is played by Jennifer Aniston. In Friends, the theory states that Ross's umbrella opening in the pilot doomed his relationship with Rachel for 7 years. And in How I Met Your Mother, the part of the umbrella theory that related to Robin leads to Ted making bad decisions. Ted and Ross are also both college professors, and they both date their students. I like to think that Ted and Ross taught at the same school, just in different departments. Ross, as we know, taught paleontology, which would be in life science, and then Ted taught architecture, which I don't know what field of study that would necessarily be in. Ted purposely tried to make Barney look bad because he wanted to prove to his kids that he deserved to be with Robin, when in reality, Barney married Robin and divorced her. Barney was played on How I Met Your Mother by Neil Patrick Harris. Like Ross and Rachel, Ted and Robin were incompatible for each other and a very toxic pairing, which is why the finale were so frustrating. Both of these shows were very frustrating. For the finales were frustrating for different reasons. I think Ted and Ross were hopelessly obsessed with Robin and Rachel, and that Robin and Rachel definitely deserved better. Robin should have gotten back together with Barney and tried to make their marriage work. And Rachel, I have her paired up alternatively with either Gavin, Gunther, or Joey. Even though Jennifer Aniston and Matt LeBlanc did not like the relationship between Joey and Rachel, and the directors didn't either. The saddest theory that I have heard about Ted is that he has early onset Alzheimer's and is telling the story to his kids before he forgets. If this theory was actually true, shouldn't he tell them the truth instead of rewriting the narrative and being so obsessed with Robin for 25 years when they never really had anything in common or the same relationship goals? The show is titled How I Met Your Mother, but in reality, we do not learn anything about Ted's relationship with Tracy or their relationship with their kids. She's just used as a plot device to get to Ted's endgame about being with Robin, which is another thing that is frustrating about that whole entire series. I feel like we should have met Tracy earlier in the show and learned a little bit more about their relationship. Much like the dark theory about Phoebe imagining the rest of the characters and their adventures in her drug-fueled imagination, there is a similar dark theory about Ted, saying that all the characters are in purgatory and Ted is alone talking to himself at McLaren's pub and that he has schizophrenia. I am not sure why the other characters would be in purgatory. The only death I can speculate is Barney, because he could have died from an overdose because of his drug addiction. Okay, so for my reading wrap-up for the month of June, the first book I wanted to talk about was Dolly All the Time. This is Annabelle Monaghan's new release from May 15th, I think. And I really loved the setting of this book. And I chose to read it basically because this book is set in Rhode Island, because our main character, Dolly, goes back to take care of her family's beach house while her father is sick. And I really liked Dolly's relationship with her dad, and the main male character's name is Stuart. He's a rich person who lives in the same town that the family's home is in, and their relationship is really sweet, but also very frustrating because they have a lot of miscommunication. Miscommunication is a common trope in my romance books that I really can't stand. But as always, I love Annabelle Monaghan's writing and her descriptiveness and the setting of Rhode Island. The next book that I read is The Deal, which is by L. Kennedy. This is the first book in the On Campus series, which was recently turned into a show, I believe, on Apple TV Plus, maybe. So this is a hockey romance book. It's, as I just said, it's book 1 in a series. And the other 3 books are called The Score, The Goal, and The Legacy. I really like this. As you guys may or may not know, hockey is one of my favorite sports, and I love reading romance books based on this sport. And this is my first book by L. Kennedy, and I love her writing style and how she develops the relationship between our main characters, who are named Hannah and Garrett. This was on a reading list I found on Instagram about characters on Friends, and it was listed for Joey, which makes sense because in the one which George Stephanopoulos, Chandler and Joey take Ross to a hockey game to get his mind off his anniversary of losing his virginity to Carol, which is a weird anniversary to mark. The next book I'm reading I borrowed from my mother-in-law Sally, and it's called Son of Nobody by Jan Martel. I'm gonna finish this later on.
And what do you think of that so far?
I love it. I love the writing style in it. And I'm gonna finish it as I said. The next book I'm rereading is called Summer of '69 by Elin Hildenbrand. This is set in the summer of 1969, during the time when the moon launch was. My mother was just reflecting on this when we were down Hull over the weekend. In my reread of this, I started this book last Tuesday, and I am currently on page 290, so I should also finish this book today. The next book that I'm rereading is called The Marvels. I'm reading this for Winter Ween for the prompt of Circus, and this is a graphic novel. The first 350 pages of this book are illustrated, and I love the illustrations, so I would recommend this book if you are a fan of The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. The final book that I recently finished is Yesteryear by Claire Carol Burke. I really enjoyed this book a lot. The writing style is good. I love the setting of it, but none of the characters were very likable, and I really wanted Natalie's kids to be taken away from her because I thought she was abusive. Matt, what do you think of Daria's book?
Well, let me explain that I started this weekend on Daria Summer's book, Swanica American Girl. And this is based on the late 1960s about a girl named Piper Lewis, who is in a world where she's in Bangkok, Thailand, the same as where Daria grew up in. And she's really adapting to supporting with the Vietnam War during this period. So I want to thank her and her cousin Allison for her support. And they are cousins of my mom. So this is the reason why we're both enjoying this.
I read this book in April and I really enjoyed it. And we're going to discuss it together once he finishes it. Where are you? What chapter?
Page 66.
66? Okay.
And now for movie reviews, we're going to start off with Adam Sandler's Little Nicky.
So we heard about this movie through a box office flops video from 2000 that was posted on the channel The Review, which we can link in the description if you guys want to learn about other movies that were flops at this time. Adam Sandler, if you guys don't already know, is from Manchester, New Hampshire, which was 20 minutes away from where we used to live in Nashua. So I really love movies with him in it because sometimes they're filmed, well, not all of the time, but some of them I think were filmed in Manchester, maybe. I think a few of them might have been, but I don't remember. So Little
Mhm.
Nicky is about the son of the devil, and to me, this was Adam Sandler's worst movie. I don't really think he was very funny in it, and I thought the humor was really inappropriate in it.
Plus, I thought Am coming back to his hell after something would kill him off when he tries to go back into the present day. That was really inappropriate. Plus, I didn't like how he was dressed almost like to kill. But a better movie we saw this past month was My Best Friend's Wedding.
My Best Friend's Wedding came out in 1998, and it stars Julia Roberts, Dermot Mulroney, who plays Gavin on Friends. Gavin, for those of you who don't remember, was Rachel's boyfriend from season 9. And then Cameron Diaz from Charlie's Angels. So re-rented this movie because we are in a trajectory of watching movies about weddings as we prepare to go to Rhode Island in a couple of weeks for my cousin's wedding. And this is the first of 2 Julia Roberts movies that we watched recently. We're going to talk about the second one in a minute. Our favorite scene in My Best Friend's Wedding is at the rehearsal dinner where they were singing I Say a Little Prayer for You. And then Julie Ann, who is the character that Julia Roberts plays, is a pick-me girl. She's kind of like Rachel in the part of Friends where she's trying to win Joshua over when they're having a goodbye party for Ross's girlfriend Emily, who was played by Helen Baxendale. And I did not like Julia's character because she was trying to basically screw up her friend's wedding to get him to marry her. But overall, what did we give this movie for a rating?
I think we gave this like 8 out of 10.
The next movie that I wanted to talk about that we watched with Julia Roberts is called Mystic Pizza, which we watched on Friday. So Mystic Pizza is a coming-of-age movie about 2 sisters who are played by Annabelle Gish and Julia Roberts in her first film role that she ever had. So it's really cool to see her in this movie and then compare her performance in it to other movies with her that we have seen in it, such as My Best Friend's Wedding, Eat, Pray, Love, Wonder, or Notting Hill, for example. So we love the small town setting, and in this movie, Julia Roberts plays a rebellious girl named Daisy, and her sister, Annabelle Gish, is really studious, like Rory Gilmore is in Gilmore Girls, and she's trying to go to college to get into Yale University to study astronomy, so she gets a summer job when she's not working at the pizza parlor babysitting a little girl named Phoebe, and she falls in love with her dad. And their relationship dynamic is cute, and I also love her dynamic with the little girl, Phoebe. They're really sweet.
And Mystic Pizza is a real life place in that small town that I suggested that Gina and I would visit when we visit there in a couple weeks.
So we are going to Mystic on the way home from my cousin's wedding to go to the aquarium where I haven't been to since I was about 10 when my aunt and uncle and cousin used to live down there. The next movie that I can't remember if we talked about this in the last video. We might have. Did we already talk about She's All That?
I don't think we did.
Okay, so She's All That came out in 1999, and it stars Freddie Prinze Jr. And Rachel Lee Cook, who plays Marianne Spear in a Babysitter's Club movie. And this is like a romance about the plot is very similar to 10 Things I Hate About You with Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger about a jock who asks out well, in this case, Rachel Lee Cook's character is a geek. Her name is Lainey Boggs, and she's an artist. And then the jock character, who is played by Freddie Prinze Jr., his name is Zach. He asks her to the prom. And yeah, I really loved the the best scene in this movie is where Lainey finds out about the bet and she gets really pissed off at Zach for making the bet in the first place, kind of like how Kat gets pissed off at Patrick in 10 Things I Hate About You for making the bet. And I think, did we agree that our favorite scene is she's all that is the makeover?
I think it is the makeover.
Yeah.
And then another movie we saw the month of June was called The Martian.
The Martian came out in 2014, and it stars Matt Damon as Mark Watley, who is a NASA astronaut who gets left behind on a space mission on Mars. So he reports back about life on Mars. And
the reason why he got left behind was because there was a big dust storm, and then they thought that he was going to not make it, so everybody thought he was dead. But as it turned out, he did survive, and he was adapting in the next weeks and months how to survive on the life of Mars. It's another vision that Hollywood did to think about what life would be like if astronauts would ever visit the Red Planet.
And we really loved how the art department designed the landscape of Mars. I think it's a perfect depiction of what Mars would actually look like. So The Martian is based off the book by Andy Weir. And I read the book for the Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR because it describes Kirk and how he would probably make merchandise for the movie based on the episode where he's making merchandise about like everything that is being said around town. Mm-hmm. And we gave this movie 8 out of 10 stars, right?
I think we did. And here's a little fact. Of the 8 planets in the solar system, if anybody would live on anywhere else besides Earth, the most likely choice would be Mars. We couldn't live on Venus because of the hot climate and the carbon dioxide with the clouds on Venus. And Mercury is just almost no methane at all with the hot temperature so close to the sun. And obviously the other 4 away from Mars and the asteroid belt are all gas planets.
The final movie that we watched in the second half of June was Wayne's World, which stars Mike Myers and Dana Carvey. So this was a skit on Saturday Night Live that was really popular, that much like Coneheads and the Blues Brothers was made into a full-length movie. So I first saw this movie when I was about 10 or 11 when I was down at Hull and I was at my Auntie Laura and Uncle John's house. I watched this movie with my cousin Gregory. I have to admit, a lot of the jokes went over my head as a kid, but watching this movie again now as an adult, I really appreciate them more, and it's probably because I have seen the Shrek movies and the Austin Powers movies, with which Mike Myers is also in, so I really appreciate his sense of humor much better. What did you like the best about Wayne's
I really
World?
liked the theme, Wayne's World, party time, excellent, woo, 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 woo.
Yeah, me too. I thought that was fun.
So, as we wrap up this video, we are going to be very busy on weekends for the remainder of the month. We're going to be seeing a couple plays. We're going to be visiting family again in Rhode Island for Jean's cousin's wedding. And then to round out the month of July, then they're going to be on their vacation down in Hull.
Our next entertainment wrap-up video for the end of July and beginning of August will be out sometime in the middle of August. We haven't picked a day and time yet, but expect it around between the 15th and the 20th. Mm-hmm. So we will see you guys next month. Have a great rest of your July.
This video has been sponsored by San Pellegro Limonada. Find it at your local store or restaurant and have a taste with a real Italian fruit juice.
By the way, this is non-sponsored.